welcome to another edition of the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, episode 392, What Could Have Been. My name's Matthew Turner, alongside Anthony Fitzpatrick, and soon to be joined by Ashley Soden. And how you doing, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, it's weird. Just already deep into the off season now for us. It's been weeks without football. It's just an odd feeling, but playoffs have made up for it. It's been some really, really good playoff football this year. It's been one of the best in recent memory. So, still got a bit to keep us going for the time being.
Lots of back and forth, controversy, refereeing decisions, and the Seattle Seahawks have all happened in this playoff run. We are going to talk all the playoff games since we talked to you last. We're also briefly now going to touch on the fact that you're going to be going live in just a few hours' time because the national championship for college football is about to happen.
Yeah, it's the last game of the year. Doesn't seem a minute since the season started, and here we are already, and we're going to have a new champion, someone who's not won it in a very, very long time. Obviously, if Indiana win this tonight, we're never going to see a season like this again. You're watching something that happens literally once in a lifetime, especially with the age of NIL. This shouldn't happen, really, but it has, and it's going to be great. But obviously, Miami are a little bit of a Cinderella story in themselves. Shouldn't really have been in the playoffs, and all of a sudden, you're in the national title game. So it's nice to see two fresh faces in there. And even though I think it might be a little bit of a blowout, it's still going to be fun. And either way, we're going to crown a different champion, a refreshing champion, let's say. But yeah, that's it. And then it's full road to the draft. And there's no stopping once you're on it.
I cannot wait to see Kirk Signetti have this crowning achievement because you know what? There's no topping this in a career in college or in NFL. In fact, to be honest, this potentially is more impressive than any achievement you might get in the NFL because you know what? In NFL, at least, it's kind of built for parity. What Signetti's done in 2 years at Indiana is nothing short of remarkable. It's like I don't know. It's like Michigan coming up and winning an NFL title. Like, you know, I don't mean to put Michigan down, but it's more just it's a totally different level. And Indiana have been in the basement of the Big Ten for a long time. Plucky sometimes, pull off an upset here or there, but you know there are other teams that have been in this sort of realm for some time, especially in the Big Ten. Minnesota, the Golden Gophers, I know are one of the teams you really like, but they've been kind of down at the bottom of the Big Ten for a while. Michigan State, I know they went to the playoffs once, especially in the old system. That was a really good achievement. But you have a look at the Michigan team that won a couple of years ago, even Ohio State last year, teams that had the deck stacked very much in their favour. Whereas this year, yes, it's been a down year for Alabama. Ohio State looked like they were walking the thing for a long time until they walked into the brick wall that was Indiana in the Big Ten championship game. I mean, Signetti's, especially without the 5-star recruits, this is historic.
And it's a template for every single team in college football to show that recruiting doesn't mean anything. So long as you've got a good system and a good standard of coaching in place, then anything is possible. Like, he's been with his OC and DC since they were back in Division Two, earning $7,000 a year. And now they're both earning like 2.5 million, something stupid like that. It just shows that if you've got the system in place, you've got the coaching, and you've got the mentality. He came to Indiana, says he's a winner. I didn't come here to lose. Everybody scoffed at him, and what's he done? He's done nothing but win. And you've got to have that steadfast belief in yourself. There's too many guys in the Big Ten, especially just coaches who are like, "Yeah, I'm going to cruise, win 6, 7 games, and that's it." And they don't really test themselves in life. This is a big thing. It's going to be good for college football, especially in the NIL era. Just goes to show that any team can do it if they're done right. Odds of it happening again are very low, but hopefully it means we'll see at least some more of these teams show some spunk and maybe make a few playoff bits here and there. But even if they don't win today, like this is still huge for them to get to a natty. It's just something that is completely incredible. So
And it's revolutionary
gotta
for the
keep
team
going.
because you've got people like Mark Cuban who've come on board and contributed a huge amount of money to the program. They are getting recruits out the portal that they have no business being in the market for because they've seen what the team is doing, and they are set up for years to come off the back of the reputation that's been built this season.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. Recruiting's better. Your infrastructure will get better. You've got your coach nailed down for a very long time. Yeah, the world's your oyster, and as I say, the Big Ten's got a lot of mediocrity in it at the minute. A lot of its big teams are in flux, so you've got potential to keep yourself at the head of the table now. Keep all these teams down. So, yeah, let's say it's going to be fun, and it's crazy. It's last game of the year already. No more college ball till August, which is going to be crazy. But
Oh,
it's
fine.
all it is. But this is where the draft kicks into gear. Shrine Bowl's next week, Senior Bowl the week after that, Legacy Bowl's going to be there, and then before you know it, you'll be into Combine season and Pro Day season, and then the draft will be here. This is where you've got to condense a ton of content into a short amount of time, but it'll be done as always.
And of course, we're going to be at the forefront of that. You know us as being the best lines related, but maybe especially here, but maybe anywhere in terms of amateur content, the best at doing this in terms of the off-season draft stuff.
Oh, we've got a new offensive coordinator,
Oh,
Drew Petzing from the Arizona Cardinals, per Ian Rappaport,
Oh
literally just
God.
now.
what? Who?
Yep.
Yep. Just
Wait.
posted now.
Who the fuck is that?
Fuck's sake. He's well away for me to join. So he played defensive back in college, nowhere big, and bounced around the league. He's most notable, as Matt just points out, for being the Arizona Cardinals offensive coordinator for the past 3 years or so. Before that, he was quarterbacks coach for Cleveland 2022, their tight ends coach in 2020 to 2021, wide receivers coach with the Vikings in 2019, the assistants quarterbacks coach in 2018, assistants wide receiver coach 2016 to 17, offensive assistants before that, football operations intern with the Browns before that, and then even before that, he was an outside linebackers coach and graduate assistant at Harvard and Boston College and Yale. So he's been around. He's been under different regimes. Played most of his coaching careers come under Stefanski and then under Gannon, but yeah, that's not exactly inspiring confidence, is it? What a way for me to join.
How are you, Ash?
I'm all right. Nervous for tonight because, as you can tell by the way I'm dressed, I won't be going to sleep for another 12 hours because I'm on nights this week. So this is, if I wasn't going to sleep already, this was going to keep me up. So that's great.
There we go. Jesus Christ. Right. A bit of research needs to be done. Carlton says any links to Dan Campbell.
No, not his career. As I said, Cardinals, Browns, Minnesota Vikings. There's little to no crossover there, really.
Dan?
Well, I guess we've got guys in that building, don't we? Because the Cardinals have nicked a lot of our staff.
Yeah.
So we obviously have guys with ties to our organization in that building who've probably recommended him. You know, these links remain open.
True.
I guess I would say.
And just we're going to start here. I want no bald slander. The man is balder than me, so we are going to have bald love here for Drew Petzing.
Ugh.
He is proper Chrome Dome. He looks like the guy who used to do Crystal Maze, and I'm here for that.
One of my
True.
absolute heroes, that man. 'Cause he created the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
And he starred in it as well. Good. Obviously, just got their Pro Football Reference stuff up. The good news is obviously their featured receiver under all 3 years of him has been Trey McBride. So Samuel Sporter, if he's healthy, stock up. The bad side of it, this year, 23rd in points, 19th in yards. Last year, where they were a bit better, 12th in points, 11th in yard. But the year before that, 24th in points, 19th in yards. Not exactly great.
I'd be interested. Oh, poor Pod. Pod have just been doing Pod are in the middle of doing a pod ranking offensive coordinator targets.
Yeah.
They've just done all that. I wonder where Drew Petzing was on their list.
Not on it.
Not
I don't think
high.
he was probably on it.
Well, he was even listed as someone that we'd interviewed.
The name didn't sound familiar.
I think it came up a couple of days ago. I know he's been interviewing around.
So his name is not on the Pride of Detroit candidate list, coaching vacancies candidate list.
Yeah.
If that's because they're too cheap to pay Mike McDaniel, I'm going to be pissed.
I don't think that's going to be the case. So
if he gets an OC gig anywhere else, I'm going to be pissed. We got one of the best offenses in the NFL, and he should want to come here.
I swear to God, if McDaniel now goes to the Eagles
Or the Bucks.
or the Bucks,
still think he should be hired by the Bills. Mainly just for the lols.
You just want chaos.
I want chaos. Look, if Miami and Buffalo swap head coaches, it's objectively hilarious.
Oh,
Well,
man.
because if nothing else, Buffalo desperately needs someone who can make the most of Josh Allen, and Miami needs to have someone who can make the most of their defense. So in some ways, it kind of makes total sense. McDaniel is the favourite for the Buffalo job.
But it's only been open like 6 hours. You know what markets are like.
per Jeremy Fowler, this should be a play calling job for New Lions OC Drew Petting. The expectation during interviews is that Dan Campbell would relinquish play calling for the new guy. So it's not even so.
I mean, at least he's not got a quarterback who's 2 foot tall now. Like, that'll help.
True.
I guess I would say that this indicates that Dan and him have clicked massively because we've jumped before anyone else has jumped. So Dan must feel extremely confident that this is the guy. And in some ways, that gives me confidence. You know, we've cast the net wide. This is who Dan thinks is the right guy. And maybe part of it is that he doesn't want to be just waiting around for his preferred guy to wait and take some other job, which is just coming up. I don't know, but yeah.
Oh, someone's found a connection between him and Dan Campbell.
Go on then.
Petting is extremely close with Ben Johnson. They coached together at Boston College, and Petting served as one of Ben Johnson's groomsmen at his wedding.
I mean, that sounds slightly... That sounds slightly stalkerish.
Ben Johnson is the new Sean McVay. Teams are just going to hire anyone who's ever touched him. What next?
Maybe
So is his wife going to get a job here?
I know, I was about to say Deshaun Watson's new QB coach, whoever gives Ben Johnson his massages up in Chicago.
Does it sound a bit like Drew Petzing is a sleeper agent for Ben Johnson inside the Lions organization? Yeah. It sounds a bit like that. Oh man, this is so weird.
Yeah.
I do like that we've been first to jump. I'm just going to say it. I think that is a good sign. 49 Risen in YouTube says, I live in Arizona and watch a lot of Cardinals games. He's not a bad coordinator, just had no players to execute. But then, as indicated in our Discord channel by Poole Walker, says, I don't like this. Cardinals fans hated him. He couldn't figure out how to use Marvin Harrison. Now, I will say, some of that was on Marvin Harrison, not remembering how to be a receiver. Especially in his first year, he was objectively bad. But, yeah. Right, we'll come on to that after we've had a bit more time to research and think a bit more about what that means and how things might change. Ryan McCluskey in our channel has said lots of 12 and 13 man personnel and also spread passing offense too. Big for Laporta should see a big target count. And the Cardinals center is currently a free agent right now, so that could be interesting.
I mean, they've got one of the best tight ends in football, so
yeah,
they've utilised him very well.
I mean, not one of. I think he's the best.
He's been the best this season, yeah.
But yeah. Cool. Let's move it on, shall we? We haven't even done some of the introductions, but you guys know what to do by now, so I won't waste your time. We had interviewed some really big names for offensive coordinator, such as Mike Kafka, who's the current interim head coach of the Giants, while they still haven't got that deal done. The Steelers offensive coordinator Arthur Smith and former Falcons offensive coordinator Zach Robinson. Staff interviewing elsewhere, Kelvin Shepard interviewed for the Miami job for head coach today. That's 19th January. Otherwise, our safeties coach Jim O'Neill was interviewed for the Jets defensive coordinator job. He was previously defensive coordinator for the Browns in 14-15, 49ers in 16, and Northwestern in 21-22. And just for laughs, Dan Orlovsky said he would love to be the Lions offensive coordinator, but, you know, he actually has to learn how to ride a bike first, little boy. Boys, okay, we'll get into who it is in future episodes. Are you disappointed we haven't taken the swing?
Yeah. People in our Discord, especially within the mock draft channel, will know. Despite my sort of aversion to it when I was last on the podcast, I really got my heart set on Mike McDaniel. He just seemed the perfect fit. And, well, yes, it's setting yourself up for in the year to having to go and get a new OC because he'd probably go and get a new head coaching job. Damn, going to be 2 really good years if everyone stays relatively healthy. But instead, I guess, yeah, we've gone for the guy who clicks more with the regime, which we'll be happy with. But it is, I don't know, how can I put it? If this doesn't work out, it does put a bit of a warning signal up there because this will be the 4th offensive coordinator we've had now in this regime. And all 3 times we've technically gone outside the building with Anthony Lynn, John Morton, and now with Petting. If they haven't worked, slight warning, slight red flag up for the regime in terms of being able to hire staff. Because it's been the same with defensive line coaches. We're potentially going to go into our 5th and 5 years if Casey Rogers either moves on somewhere else, gets the bag, or we choose to move on because it just wasn't a fit.
You wanted to take the swing, didn't you, Ant?
Oh, on the offensive coordinator? Yeah, absolutely, I did. You know, as I always said, this offense is a Ferrari and it needs its Michael Schumacher to drive it, and the guy who's innovative, who keeps leading, who just keeps dominating, and, you know, it's... And again, I don't, you know, you know, Petzing is the guy now, so I'm going to back him 100% here. But, you know, I just want someone whose mind is beautiful in its, you know, weirdness, and they can come up with all this wonderful stuff and use all the guys at our disposal, because you have got so much to do here, and, you know, so much at your disposal with Jameer and JMO, and you know all by now. We might even draft more guys this year, who knows? But you know, you kind of want someone who's expansive and attacking and innovative with it. Innovation is where our best offenses come from. And yes, Dan has called plays, and, you know, he keeps it simple, smash the ball down the throat, etc. But I think you need a good balance. Petzing, it kind of, my initial thing is this smacks of somebody who is going to do as he's told by Dan. And I would want someone who would push back and try and get their ideas in a little bit as well. You know, this is a big gig for Petzing. You can't come in the building and say, right, I'm going to do things my way because he's got 2 years with the Cardinals and a shite team under his belt. Kind of like Morton. You know, he's going to be an extension of what Dan is. So I think he's a yes. I think he's a yes man who's going to come in and do as he's told. I think guys like McDaniel, Kafka, etc. might want a bit more input and might want to change the way things are done a little bit, and maybe that just didn't go down well with the top brass. Who knows? But like I say, he's our guy now, and we'll wait and see what the gig is with him and how he does. But I am disappointed because we've got a rookie DC in. I would have wanted an experienced guy on the other. You know, he's still not that experienced, let's say. So yeah. And if McDaniel and that end up going to our rivals, it's just going to feel to me like, come on, you know, the opportunity was there. Go for it. There's no harm in having a big name here. I know we're not about the flashy stuff, but just sometimes you can be, you know. So yeah, we will see.
Right, let's get on to the 2025 season review for the Detroit Lions. In fact, no, not quite. Notification for everyone that the 2025 season awards are coming next week. So the poll is going to come out for the public award sometime in the next few days to give you time to vote and then time for me to make the graphics. You will be voting for your moment of the year and your player of the year in the chat right now. If you have any moments, or you have any players that you don't think have been nominated yet, let me know. I can always edit the form while we're here. So at the moment, we've got Fans Moment of the Year nominees as Kirby Joseph stumblebum interception celebration against Chicago, blowing out the Bears in week 2, Gibbs first play of overtime against the Giants for a touchdown, beating Dallas and effectively ending their season, Lions versus Washington, scoring on every single drive, and then week 18, Bates kicking the game winner against the Bears to end the season. Fans Player of the Year nominees include long snapper Hogan Hatton, as well as Jack Campbell, Penei Sewell, Roy Lopez, and Jared Goff. We have got, of course, the ones that we vote on as well, and we are looking for suggestions for nominees for that as well. So they are Game of the Year, which we've got as the Ravens game, the first Bears game, the loss to the Rams just being a barnstorming game even in a loss, the win over the Commanders scoring an overdrive or beating the Cowboys. Player of the Year, we've got Tesla's week 1 touchdown, Kirby's interception against Chicago, Gibbs 69-yard overtime touchdown against the Giants, or Jack Campbell's strip sack of Lamar Jackson. Man of the Year, we've got Jameson Williams, Jared Goff, Jameer Gibbs, and DJ Reader. Coach of the Year, we've got Mark Brunell, Sean Dion Hamilton, Scotty Montgomery, Deshae Townsend, and Dave Phipp. Grit Awards, we've got nominees as Tate Ratledge, Penei Sewell, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Taylor Decker, and Thomas Harper. Signing of the Year, Roy Lopez, Rock Ya-Sin, Avonte Maddox, Thomas Harper, and Al-Qadim Mohammed. Most Improved Player, Jameson Williams, Jack Campbell, Al-Qadim Mohammed, and Terrian Arnold. Unsung Hero, Daniel Thomas, Thomas Harper, Tate Ratledge, Roy Lopez, Jared Goff, Nick Whiteside, and Tom Kennedy. Rookie of the Year, Tyreek Williams, Tate Ratledge, and Isaac Tesla. Botched refereeing call of the year, Tesla OPI against Pittsburgh, Matt LaFleur's timeout, the catch by Colby Parkinson for the touchdown for the Rams, Kelsey's catch for Kansas City, Goff's illegal shift against Kansas City for a touchdown, Pittsburgh game, Amon-Ra St. Brown's shovel pass to end the game, but offensive pass interference, and Aguakun's false start. Defensive Player of the Year, we've got Hutchinson, Campbell, Mohammed, and Harper. Offensive Player of the Year, Sewell, Goff, St. Brown, Gibbs, Williams, and Ratledge. And MVP, Sewell, Goff, Hutchinson, St. Brown, and Gibbs. I know that was a long list. If you have any suggestions for any awards for any players, please get your suggestions into us, or these are going to go live in the next day or two. Right. 2025 season for the Detroit Lions. Finishing 9-8, that was bottom of the NFC North, locks in a favourable schedule compared to the rest of the division for next season. Their expected wins was a flat 10.0, so they were one game under expectation. They started with a loss at Green Bay, and then wins versus Chicago, at Baltimore, versus Cleveland, and at Cincinnati to be 4-1 before losses at Kansas City, a win versus Tampa Bay, their bye, a loss versus Minnesota, win at Washington, loss at Philadelphia, win in overtime against the Giants, loss versus Green Bay, win versus Dallas before going on a losing streak to effectively end the season, at Rams versus Pittsburgh, and at Minnesota before getting the consolation victory over the recently defeated Chicago Bears in Chicago. In terms of injuries, this team had Josh Pascal on NFI all year, and they either had on IR or lost a significant portion of time for all of the following players. Running back Kai Robichaux, remember him? Tight end Sam Laporta, Brock Wright, tackle Giovanni Manu, Jamarco Jones, guard Christian Mahogany, Colby Sawstall, centre Graham Glasgow, Tristan Colon, defensive tackle Liam McNeil, Levi Onwuzurike, linebacker Zach Cunningham and Ezekiel Turner, cornerbacks DJ Reed, Terrian Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw, safeties Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch and Dan Jackson. That's a whole fucking team. And then some.
Yeah. And you've even forgot to put Marcus Davenport on there, but I guess that's because he's
on there permanently.
Was he not fit all year?
No, he was injured during the start of the season. That's why we had to put Tyler Lacey out at big defensive end.
Oh, right. Yeah, I have to admit, he didn't feature highly in my thinking. But there we go. A few high-level stats here. We were PFF's third overall team. We couldn't manage it in our own division, but we were third overall. If you think PFF gone rogue, we are DVOA's third overall team this season. For PFF, our offense was 6th, defense was 5th, and special teams was 6th. So very consistently top 5, top 6 in every category. EPA, we were 10th overall, indicating that might be a bit more reflective of who we really were. Offense 8th, defense 13th. And we got off to a hot start after the loss at Green Bay, going 4-1 early, and then we just couldn't put a streak together of wins or losses until very late to end the season. But I read out the list of players where we lost a reasonable, significant number of games from. That's a huge amount of players, and you never want to run with excuses. It's next man up, and we preach that. And actually, the fact that we have a winning record, I think, reflects well a little bit. But it's still, for me, a lost season where, the overall metrics say we played really well, and here we are, bottom of the division. It's not great.
I mean, you say it's a long list, but Roberto, Jones, Turner, like you're talking about guys who are not really having much impact on our first team here. Maybe a tiny little bit of depth in there, but compared to last year's injury concerns, it's not as bad. It's been the offensive line this year that's been the issue, and due to retirements and some injuries you've had on there, but consistency has been the name of the game this year. They've just been inconsistent. What did we go, 2.5 months not being able to put together back-to-back wins? You win one, you lose one, you win one, you lose one. You just can't get much going with that. And the games you lost were just bad. The Philly game, bad. The Pittsburgh game, bad. The Packers games, both of them bad. Like the losses were bad losses where we made a lot of mistakes. We got beaten at our own game, which is our grit and, the strength and everything. Teams would run over us and, they always seem to have an answer for it the next game, but not having the consistency to do so all the time. That's what's killed us. As I say, just the offensive line has been a big reason for this, and then the defense going off a cliff for the second half of the year has been bad. And I spoke about this earlier. You can say we ranked metrically the third best team in football, but you've seen it, I've seen it, everybody's seen it. We've not been the third best team in football this year. We've been far from it. And we can twist these stats all we want to say we're still a good team and that. The fact is, you look at the losses and they were all bad. You lost 8 games this year, a lot of bad losses on that record. The third best team in the NFL doesn't do that. And the way the defense went in the second half of the year, when it was one of the worst in the league, period, you can't get away with that. And there are just long-standing issues on this team that we've not been able to fix. Pass rush overall, even though AQM did really well. Your secondary is just, and that can be explained by injury because you've lost your 2 leading safeties and both your starting corners for vast amounts of time, but still the depth has not been in there to be able to cover, and the defensive line has not done its job enough to cover a depleted secondary. And then offensively, again, you've just been so hit and miss. Like, you start off slow on the year with a new coordinator, and then you do pick it up a bit. But although we've put up loads of points and that, it's just not felt like our offensive past. It's been slow, it's been turgid, it's been eating up clock, whereas before we used to just eviscerate teams, put points down on them quick, really put pressure on them. And it feels like we haven't done that this year. So, there are issues at play here, but I think blaming the injuries is just easy on this one. I think we've just played a lot of bad football. A lot of our better players have not delivered properly this year when they need to, and the coaching has taken a step backwards with 2 no coordinators in, which is what we were going to expect, and obviously a schedule that's not been easy either. But yeah, it's not been the season we wanted. It's been disappointing all round. And, we need to remedy that because next year's a big year now. It's year 6, and we can't not go into the playoffs again, and the division is tough. So yeah, that's where we're at.
Yeah, like I think this year was just exposed, as we've kind of pointed out for the past couple of weeks. I know, well, coming on to the past couple of months, is exposed flaws in how the regime was operating. So I know obviously I held to Johnny Morton's, like bringing him in, kind of, oh yeah, he knows the system. We've just lost Ben, but we bring in this guy who's ran the system. He helped develop it, and we'll just carry on as normal. and that didn't work. The obviously hiring Shep as defensive coordinator. I'm not saying fire him at all, but not really bringing in someone to help him. And I know people in our Discord know about this because I've been banging the drum for this for a while now. When people are saying fire Shep, don't fire Shep. Bring him a veteran guy who's been there, done that to help him. It's what we did with Aaron Glenn, who honestly had a bit more coaching experience than what Shep had at this point. And we brought in Don Capers to sort of be help him do the game plans and just help him settle his defensive coordinator role. Potentially that might have been Casey Rogers. That's what I think they were thinking, but never was said out sort of aloud. But that hasn't worked. So that not really working. And I know part of the reason is because Frank left it late, but just not being working hard enough to restock the areas where you knew you had some issues. So even last year, Decker had a couple of injury issues anyway, not really going out and getting a valid backup for him, aside from trusting Skip and Manu to do it, even though Skip's been carrying tendonitis in knees and now he's got a back problem that might see him retire. The Ragnar situation, I know we had last year, we brought in the 3D UDFAs and they were supposed to battle it out. We've brought in all these backup centres like Nisha and all that. It didn't work. So the one good thing we can say from this year is it's at least exposed flaws in how the regime's been working, and hopefully they'll go to fix it. Even looking at, I don't know, I've been a big proponent for our defensive scheme, but just highlighting that need, we do need speed rushers. Yes, you don't want to fully sacrifice run defense, but passing on a Donovan Zuriaku, for instance, just because he's undersized for what you usually want in your scheme, you should have your scheme fit good players, not try and get good players to fit your scheme kind of thing. So hopefully that's the one big takeaway is this is a down year. Other good teams have had down years. Look at the Chiefs this year, for instance, the Ravens. All good teams sometimes have bad years where everything just doesn't go their way. This is their chance now to sort of show, okay, we've got pretty close to the mountaintop, but we fell down a bit. Now is our chance to show, yeah, we're the kind of regime that can stick around, can overcome these hardships and get back up towards the mountaintop. Or do they start compounding and suddenly we're a flash in the pan, which I don't want, but we've seen it happen. Look at the Giants, for instance. They had one good year and then everything started to fall apart. Don't want that in Detroit.
Just going to go through some offensive stats, then break for you guys talking about the offense in a bit more detail, and then do the same for the defensive side of the ball. On offense, Jared Goff finished the season with 393 completions on 578 attempts. That's 68%, 4,564 yards, 35 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, passer rating 105.5, QBR 57.7, PFF grade of 77.7. Leading running back was Jahmyr Gibbs, 243 carries for 1,223 yards, 5.0 yards per carry, and 13 touchdowns. He was also 77 of 94. That's 8 yards a catch and 5 touchdowns through the air, totaling 18 touchdowns on the year. PFF grade of 85.6. Amon-Ra St. Brown, leading receiver, despite his injury issues with his hands, 117 catches on 172 targets, averaging 10 targets a game, 1,401 yards, 12 yards per catch, 11 touchdowns, PFF grade of 90.7. Sam Laporta was still the leading tight end, despite only playing 9 games. He was 40 of 49 for 489. That's 12.2 yards a catch and 3 touchdowns, PFF grade of 82. Other good grades, Penei Sewell was a 95.2. He was PFF's number 2 overall player and was a first-team All-Pro. Jameson Williams was a 75.6. David Montgomery a 75.3. Tate Ratledge a 70.3. Those are all the guys 70-plus graded on the year. Other bad grades in there, Graham Glasgow 56.8 and tight end Brock Wright 52.5. This team was 20th on third down, only converting 38.8% of their attempts. They were 15th on fourth down, completing 58.1%, which, you know, is well below their usual standard, but they only tried 31 times, which is a bit lower than in recent years. Red zone touchdown rate was 8th in the NFL, so despite not being able to convert on third down, they were actually pretty good in the red zone, even though it doesn't feel like it. 40 of 64 they were. The big thing here, boys, rushing success rate of only 40.7% was 22nd in the NFL, but they were first in the NFL in 20-yard runs and 6th in the NFL in 40-plus yard runs. So I throw it to you guys. This is the biggest change that we've seen year to year, and you highlighted the change in the offensive line, and the result of it was down to down, we were a well below average rushing unit, and yet we were the most explosive rushing unit in the NFL. And that really, I think, holds true. We struggled to move the ball. I haven't checked the 3-and-out rate, but it was probably pretty high compared to what we have been in recent years. But we still scored touchdowns, and we still moved the ball in isolated moments pretty well. When we were a bit desperate, we got the plays we needed, especially with Gibbs out there, but we struggled.
I mean, you were behind in a lot of games where you had to make big plays, like the Giants game where you're miles behind and you're having to throw lots of bombs. You're essentially doing ground raid, and raid teams are unbalanced. We talk about it with passing. If you're just throwing big darts down the field all the time, that's all good and proper. But fundamentally, there's a flaw with that. You're not on the field very long. Your defense gets very tired, and when you come up against a team that can deal with it, you can't do anything else against it. Getting explosive plays it's no good if you're not supporting it with a stable, balanced game in general with it. It's, again, just big splash plays all the time. You can't live and die by that. And if I remember rightly, a lot of those explosive plays came within a few week period. Like we had loads in like 3 or 4 weeks if just completely conflated that up. I mean, again, I'll see what I see with my eyes. Like the offense, again, you go back to like the Eagles game and stuff. It was horrendous. Like it was just no rhyme and reason. The play calling's been bad. It's been predictable. It's just not been the way it usually is. We've had to put more on Goff this year, and Goff has done incredibly well, which is the most frustrating thing. He's had one of his best years ever, and the one year we don't really support him with the ground game as much as we want to, which would, time of possession, all that sort of stuff. It's not having a steady ground game just impacts so many other facets of your offense, and it's just not been good enough, and execution has been poor, which is on coaching. Like the offensive line, so many blown assignments, so many late assignments, inability to change what they're doing, make adjustments in game has been tough as well. And it sounds silly making all these complaints when still you're scoring so many points, but you have to look at it as a whole this season. We've all seen the offense has not been as potent as usual, and a lot of these games we've lost have been low-scoring affairs where just 1 or 2 scores would win us these games, and we've had nothing, squat, nada. So, I take no comfort in these high explosive play rates. Just I don't like playing football that way. Give me a good solid 5-6 yard per carry team over someone that's just getting these glitzy explosive plays all the time. Yeah, it's just me. I'm old-fashioned, but I don't like playing raid football. So it's got to change. It all starts with the offensive line, obviously having your tight ends healthy. This year has exposed a need where the tight end room completely needs reshaping because it's battered, it's bruised. The entirety of it seems to have suffered serious injuries. You've got to redo that going forward, especially with the now growing feature where seem to like to use 3 or more of them. You're going to need to redo that, but you've got to evolve the way we play. We've not evolved the way we play, and the league has adapted to it, and they will continue to adapt to it until we show them something different. So, as Ash said earlier, this is a year where we've been exposed, and hopefully the first time they've truly been exposed will lead to a rethink in how they do things. Sometimes it helps for your way to be exposed, so you adapt and survive. That's all the best we can hope for this, because yeah, it's statistically been fine, but we've all seen it. We know that's a lie. It's not been fine.
It's funny, isn't it, Ash, the difference between the numbers and the devil being in the numbers and what you can see with your eyes, because it is a stark contrast between, the points scored is fine, but it has felt very stop-start. And, we're saying about this being maybe one of Goff's finest years. it didn't look fantastic at some points. You know, there were lots of off-target throws by him. It didn't feel entirely in rhythm, especially at the start of the year. Even when we were winning games, it didn't feel fantastic. And yet, it's the qualifier of, but if you have a look at what he was dealing with in that interior of the offensive line, what he did was actually fairly remarkable, and yet we still couldn't get over the line.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to not preparing on the offensive line in a way, and this is 100% conflated. And again, this is just one person's view that I've heard, but there are some on the beat and podcasts that have said that we went with that obviously the Ragnar situation happened, and we went with Graham to keep both him and Goff happy. In which case, why are we not going with the best five? Because you could see it was definitely affecting things. And I know we eventually did sort of go the opposite way. Okay, it ain't working, Graham. Let's try something else. But it was too little, too late. But it just impacted the season because Goff was getting pressured up the middle. There were times where we were running the ball, and just because it's a slow developing draw, players because we just could not hold up for long enough, we were getting tackled for lost. And it didn't help that I know why the team seemingly chose to take the 50-50 split in inverted commas between Monty and Gibbs and weight it heavily towards Gibbs, where it was more 70-30 at times. But it really affected the just efficiency of the offense because, yes, Gibbs can easily take any handoff and turn it into a touchdown. But he also has that habit of trying too much at times. He can see, this pressure up the interior. I'm going to try and bounce outside. I'm running right into pressure, and I'm going to get what would have been a loss of 1 yard if he just carried on up the middle. He tries to bounce outside, carries it on, goes back, and then suddenly it turns into like a 6-yard loss, and it just puts us so far behind the sticks. Yes, Monty is not Gibbs. He won't bust a 70-yard touchdown potentially on every play, but the thing he can do is he can get you the yards that's there and then fighting forward for maybe 1 or 2 more. And sometimes we just needed that, but because it seemed like the team was chasing the big play from Gibbs that, we'll knock him out with this one here, it really set us back. And then Goff has to then put things on his back. Aaron Raw had injury issues that seemingly carried throughout the entire season. I know his drop rate was pretty similar to last year, but it was on more contentious downs. JMO definitely stepped up, but again, that was only really after Dan took over play calling, and then Tesla was working his way in, and the team was seemingly allergic to using Khalif Raymond much, despite him entering the season supposedly as wide receiver 3 according to Morton. It was just a thing where we didn't adjust to our personnel, playing a lot of 2 tight end sets when Laporta was out and Brock Wright was out. So you're playing Ferkser there, you're playing Ross Dwelly there. It was just all these little personnel choices and things that we did that just all accumulated to create this where, we were putting up points, but that was usually just beating downs on bad teams. So the Bears in week 2, when they're still figuring things out, we put a load of points upon them. We put a load of points upon the Cincinnati Bengals. But as soon as we play good defenses, even ones like, obviously the Browns is not exactly an amazing team, but they've got a good defense. We weren't really putting points up there. We were getting affected by the pass rush. We were getting behind the sticks. It's just one of them where we almost regressed back to it. It did seem like at points where we were a Patricia team, especially on offense, where you put us against a bad defense, we're going to put up points, we're going to put up on all this, and you're going to put yards, you're going to get all the stats you want. As soon as you come up against a semi-competent defense that can start queuing in on what you do and force you to go to your second, third reads, it didn't have a counterpunch, and it really showed.
Let's then kind of pivot and look ahead to next season. So looking at this offensive team depth chart overall, Goff's going to remain quarterback. We've still got Gibbs. Monty's under contract, but his status is going to be uncertain. There'll be trade rumours coming up to the draft, I'm sure. Wide receivers, you've got Amon-Ra, J-Mo, Tesla, all out there. Khalif is going to be a free agent. You've then got tight end Sam Laporta, Brock Wright, Shane Zylstra. I'm not sure which of them are free agents.
Both are.
Sorry?
Both
are.
So
it's just Laporta. And then on the offensive line, Decker is obviously under contract, but retirement rumours will swirl. Mahogany, Glasgow's a UFA. Tate Ratledge, and Penny Sewell. So when you have a look at starting spots available for next season, they're available at centre or right guard, depending on what you do with Tate. I would keep him at right guard, but that argument, I'm sure, will burn through the off-season. And then potentially at left tackle with Taylor Decker. But can I say to you fellas, those two are big openings, centre and left tackle. But given the issues that we've had, another year for Mahogany, Ratledge and Miles Frazier as backup, another year for Tesla, I would love to make the case that I think the 2026 Detroit Lions offense has the potential to be far better than what we saw in this season, because a lot of those names are going to have another year under their belt in terms of the young lads, and who knows what we're going to do on that offensive line. But if you can go and get a vet at centre and a draft pick at left tackle, or vice versa, whatever floats your boat, then you there is the ability for this to turn around massively in a very short space of time.
Yeah, 100%. Like, obviously, we do have to attack the offensive line. You're quite right saying centre, left tackle. I'm leaning probably more towards the left tackle in the draft, centre in free agency, just because any tackles that do come available in free agency are either because teams can't afford them and they're going to get mega bucks. We're not the kind of team that will go out and pay mega bucks for that, though hopefully you'd hope that, considering the need, the team might change their philosophy on that. But also there's quite usually centre, there's a couple. Obviously, with today's news, people in the Discord will know that obviously the Cardinals centre is a free agent. Maybe go and get him. He knows obviously Peterson's scheme, nice way to integrate it. And then you can just get bookends then. If you've got a tackle in the draft, suddenly that's your future for the next 10 years, potentially tackle and theoretically solved. Everything else in the interior can then be solved by lesser things like Mahogany. I know he's had a down year this year, but that was a late round pick. Frazier's got supposedly starting potential in him. He's a late round pick. You've got like ability to then solve a centre, but the sort of centre of the line, just attack the tackles as much as you can, and then everywhere else he pretty much is backup roles now. Like, we're going to have to get a backup QB, but I'm sure Kyle Allen will probably come back if he wants to. Probably need to go and get a rotation running back if we do get rid of Monty. Not that I want to, but again, he's seemingly there. So whenever I do my mock drafts, I usually send him to the Texans or someone for a nice third, fourth round pick, because we need picks in that range. And then receiver-wise, we're set. Like, we've got our starting three. You can just go and get some theoretically cheap backups behind them to fill in the roles, or you use some of the futures contracts like Jackson Meeks. I know he got some tight end cross-training this season, but as a wide receiver 5, you could do a lot worse. Dominic Lovett, what we will see from him next year, maybe he comes and shows enough to be a theoretically good enough backup at the slot and wide position, the Z position, I mean, that you don't really have to go out. You're sorted there. And then it's just tight end. That's probably the one place in terms of skill positions you do have to attack, because everyone's pretty much a free agent except for Sam. But Sam's coming off this back injury that doesn't sound too good, a herniated disc, considering what a tight end needs to do. And the fact he's entering a contract year, you probably need to look at the future there. So again, do you go and get a veteran free agent and then look at day 3 for a tight end? I probably would. But at least in theory, the starters are pretty much all coming back. It's just tight end, left tackle and centre you really need to attack, and in depth. And everyone needs to attack depth. So we should be good.
And do you buy the argument that we could be seeing some sort of regression upwards for the Lions on offense?
Regression upwards.
Yeah, positive regression. Regression is, it doesn't have to be positive or negative. It means that you go towards where you should be.
It all depends. For me, it's not necessarily about the personnel. It's about who's calling the plays. I think that's not been good enough. And I think that, we need a better in-game manager who can adapt better. And if we get that, along with improved personnel, then I think we will get back to our best very quickly. But it's very easy for us to say, oh, let's just get a left tackle and a centre and everything's going to be hunky-dory. It's not. The guard positions, I'm sceptical about. Like, say, Mahogany has not had his best year and has been plagued by injury. Frazier is hit and miss. they're still quintessentially both rookies, and you've got a lot to deal with. And you've got to find the best way to put these guys in the best position to win, and you've got to execute plays better. Our screen game and everything's been shite for years, and you just the coaching is as important as the personnel. I think it's just the point I'm trying to make. Petzing's going to be a massive part of this if he is play calling. He has got to be able to, and he's got history with it. Cardinals had the seventh best rushing offense the year before last when their personnel were healthy. Like, he can orchestrate a very good run game. Of course, you need to win that NFC West with the pass rushes you come up against. So he's going to be used to a high level of opposition, defensive line wise, and that he's seen some of the best the league has to offer. So you would seen it in spurts. I think hopefully the play calling works. He's good, and he's got the weapons he needs here to succeed, and hopefully it's all going to be healthy. He's had to deal with what he did with what we have here. 11 players on IR they finished with this year on offense. Like, he lost a lot. So we could be good very quickly, but it's consistency. That's all it is. If the consistency comes, we'll be the best offense in the league, period. But they've got to get the hire. They've got to get the call in right. And they've got to get the draft and free agency right. We have to spend a bit of money. This is our prize asset. We've got to spend money to keep it our prize asset. Whilst continuing to draft our young guys on defense and doing it. That's the identity we've built. We spend a lot of money on our offense and we draft and develop our defense, and we've got to get there with that. So we could, but simultaneously, if we don't adapt what we do, we could get even worse next year as teams get on top of us and stop us doing what we do best. There's a big blueprint out there now this year. You put pressure on us, you blitz us a lot, you show a lot of stunts, you just show us a lot of confused looks, and you can get at us and stop us doing what we do best. So, yeah, it's all as much on coaching as it is players.
Turning our attention to the defense, here are the statistical leaders. Defensive tackle DJ Reader with 28 tackles and 4 quarterback hits, a PFF grade of 68.4. Aiden Hutchinson on the edge, an interception, 3 passes defended, 4 forced fumbles and a fumble recovery, 14.5 sacks, 54 tackles, 14 tackles for loss, 35 quarterback hits and a PFF grade of 91.9. He was second team All-Pro and the 5th highest PFF defensive player on the year. Linebacker Jack Campbell, he had 4 passes defended, 3 forced fumbles and 2 fumble recoveries, 5 sacks, 176 tackles. Holy God. 9 TFLs, 5 quarterback hits, a PFF grade of 90.2 and was first team All-Pro. Cornerback DJ Reed in 11 games had 2 picks, 7 passes defended, a forced fumble and fumble recovery, 46 tackles, PFF grade of 65.2. Safety Brian Branch, the leader in that room, 12 games played, 9 passes defended, a forced fumble and fumble recovery, 2.5 sacks, 75 tackles, 5 TFLs, 5 quarterback hits, and a PFF grade of 77.5. Other good grades on defense, and there were quite a few. Safety Avonte Maddox, 71.9. Defensive end Al-Qadim Mohammed, 74.3. There are a smattering of others in that above average grade. Other bad grades, cornerback Terry and Arnold, 52.6. Defensive end Marcus Davenport, 52.4. Defensive tackle Liam McNeil, 51.6. And Amik Robertson at corner, 48.6. On third down, we were 9th in the NFL, only allowing 36.9% completion rate. But on fourth down, we were 25th, allowing 21 of 32 for 65.6%. And in the red zone, we were 21st in allowing touchdowns. 31 touchdowns on 52 trips. That's almost 60%. A few other defensive stats here to talk about. We were 9th in defensive success rate. So down to down, this was a very good team, but we did give up explosive plays, especially down the stretch, which really hurt us. In terms of tendencies on defense, we blitzed 23.7% of the time. That's 20th in the NFL. Had light boxes 41.4% of the time, 23rd lowest. Heavy boxes 33.7% of the time. That's 5th highest. And we were in sub package 34% of the time. That is dead last. And by some distance in the NFL, we really didn't like to come out of base. In terms of the defensive line, we had pressure on 36.8% of reps. That's 17th in the NFL, so about dead center. No blitz pressure rate was 34.6%. That's 15th, so slightly better at creating pressure when not blitzing compared to the rest of the NFL, but only marginally. Yards before contact per rush, 1.8 yards. That is second worst in the NFL. We really struggled to move that offensive line backward and contact the running back in the backfield this year. Our rush stuff rate was 24th in the NFL. And in terms of coverage, man rate 32%, that's third in the NFL. Correspondingly, we played zone 63% of the time, that's 29th. Middle closed rate 58%, 6th. And open rate 40%, that's 26th. So, in short, played base a lot with heavy boxes, struggled to pressure, struggled to contact running backs in the backfield, but created a good amount of pressure, and we were very productive on sacks. I think we were 7th or 8th in the NFL in terms of sacks. So, seems unsustainable to me, Ash, to talk about this defense. There's a lot of stats there which are highly concerning, but I guess I would say things really took a turn for the worst when safety 1 and 2, cornerbacks 1, 2, and potentially 3 all go down with season-ending injuries at some point, or DJ Reed comes back but doesn't look like the same player since he came back. It was very, very good to start the year and fell off horribly. You're on mute.
Would be useful for me to yourself. As I said, yeah, it started so well. I remember this was around the time when I was stopping at my aunt's house in Throne. It was just after the Browns game. All the stuff was coming out, and we were up there in terms of all the efficiencies on defense, and it all looked great. But then, as the injuries started to hit, especially at the safety room, but just elsewhere, things did fall apart. There was times where the players would step up and played better than some of their parts. So the Legion of Whom game against the Bucks obviously springs to mind, where they were coming in, rolling in on offense, and they were missing, I think it was Buka and Godwin, but still had Mike Evans up until about halfway through that game. They were rolling in, looking like a great offense, and we held them to 9 points and everything looked great. But as the season went on, and we lost both safeties, and we lost their backups for Thomas Harper getting his concussions and all that. We were scrambling, and you could tell. And to try and stop the pass, I know Shep says, "Oh, take away these runs." We didn't it was better than it was. We had to start covering deficiencies at the back end, and that left the run defense vulnerable. And those last month or so, we were just getting gashed on the ground, and it was just uncharacteristic to see. Like, Jack Campbell was doing the best he could, fighting fires. Barnes was doing something, and Anzalone was okay, but in a contract year, I think most people can agree, kind of took a step back. It just didn't help, and not being down the defensive line, whatever was happening there, also didn't work. I know quite a lot of people have pointed it out now, but again, Casey Rogers just wasn't a fit. Again, I hold my hands up there. I thought it was a fucking standout hire when we got him this time last year. But what he did with Aleem and DJ Reed, supposedly, again, this is coming from Briz on his pod, I think it was a round table, basically getting Aleem to put weight back on, getting DJ Reader to put on 10 pounds, basically using 3-4 concepts in a 4-3 defense. It just did not work. There was a lot of miscommunications, I think, in terms of what we were doing there. And it showed. And again, it highlighted certain things that we can't play the way our defense does if we're missing two of the big people to it. I know Branch is the standout. He's one of the best players on the team, and what he can do in terms of playing basically every position on the defense that isn't defensive tackle helps you. But when he's not there, sometimes you have to pivot away from what you do there. When you don't have Kirby Joseph patrolling the back end, and you're instead playing Avonte Maddox, Thomas Harper, who don't have the range he does or the ball skills, you have to adjust what you do in terms of your coverage. When you don't have your top corners out there, and you're still asking, Rocky Sin, as much as I love him and much I want him to keep him around because he's been pretty damn good as a depth side, and asking him to do some of the stuff that you asked DJ Reed and Terrian to do, it didn't work. And by the time we did adjust, again, it was too little too late. So again, we need to shore up that safety room with some additions, I think. Keep around Avonte, I know we've got Thomas Harper luckily around because picks him off of Ravers. He's selling his rookie contract. We've got him next year on his UDFA deal. Keep them around. Keep around some of the guys we've got in secondary, but we need to reload that linebacker room because it's pretty much Jack Campbell, who's good, need extension. Deb Barnes, who's playing on his extension, is currently not living up to it. Does he play more will now that we're potentially losing Anzalone and the Wesky? That's all we have there because Anzalone's a free agent. Zach Cunningham's a free agent. Grant Stewart's a free agent. We're going to have to go and get some guys. And again, is it a day free thing? I know slightly dipping into the color show here, but the pit linebacker looks absolutely amazing for our defense. Please go and get him. And on the defensive line, yeah, you plug Tyleek into the DJ Reader role, but you don't have much there now at defensive tackle. You've got him, you've got Tyleek, and you've got Aleem because Reader's gone. Lopez is gone. Aleem was only on Levi was on a 1 year deal, excuse me. Do you bring him back and see what he's looking like after his ACL? Do you bring back Tyler Lacey maybe? And then at the edge, you've got Aiden, you've got Hassan on a futures deal. Again, not a lot there either because Davenport thankfully is gone. We don't have to keep putting him on IR, but AQ is going to go and get paid somewhere because teams always overpay for the big breakout guys. Look what happened with Charles Harris, for instance, when we did it with him. Ty Lacey has probably got him. Tyrus Wheat's gone. All these guys we're going to have to reload the depth again. And there's just not enough draft picks and potentially not enough free agency money to start going around that. So where do we cheap out? Is it the linebackers and suddenly Chep has to change his schemes for us running more 4-2-5 looks and we do lean into the nickel stuff? And then what does that mean? Does that mean we have to bring back a Meek, or do we rely on Breakstraw to be our nickel? Do we put Branch down back in the nickel where he can play, but that means then we have to go and get another safety? There's all these questions about the defense and what we do with the personnel, and until maybe free agency hits, we don't even know what we'll need in the draft on defense. I hope we do get an edge rusher high because, as I said earlier, we just need that edge presence. We've got all the run stopping we need. Yeah, you can bring back Tyler Lacey, play him on base downs in the Josh Pascal role. Fine. That's good enough in terms of run defense. But it comes to those third downs. And I know someone's about to be very vindicated when I say this. We need the James Houston type. Even if it is you spend a early day free pick on a sort of designated pass rusher type that you just stick out there on third downs and you say, go get some quick pressure. That's what we need because we've ranked so low in time to pressure the past couple of years. And it shows because, yeah, we can get all these pressures where we hurry the QB, but if it's not really affecting the play, if they're still able to get it off and hit us 30 yards downfield, but, DJ Reader's got in his face and kind of made him throw slightly early, doesn't mean now.
And do you buy this, the stats, look good in some areas and bad in others, that we lost our identity down the stretch with the injuries that we had? We just kind of fell to pieces because if you have a look at how we started, Kelvin Shepherd was being talked about as one of the major successes in the whole league this season. Off the back of that start, he's getting head coaching interviews, and yet down the stretch, especially our identity of stopping the run, really did fall to bits.
I mean, it's a classic example of a new rookie coordinator starts well and the league adapts to him. And, he's not able to adapt back. It happens. And, more savvy offensive coordinators started figuring out what he was up to and exposing that. But I think the critical thing here is just it's once again our defensive line has let us down completely. The play has been completely suboptimal considering the money we've spent on Reader. We've invested draft picks in the spot, and they've just not done a damn thing. I know the beat writers love to fawn over our sack rate and stuff like that, but sacks are splash plays. What were we bottom? I think we were bottom 3 in the league for this year. Tackles for loss. Tackles for loss count just as much as sacks do. Making negative plays regularly, especially against the run, puts teams behind the sticks and gives your defensive line a chance to go make plays on the quarterback. As you've already put there, nearly 2 yards before contact. Before contact. Just teams able to run it too easy put themselves in situations where they can pick on our exposed secondary because QB can get the ball out his hands in 2 seconds because we can't get to him, and all these intricate playmakers just making big plays on us because we're not able to deal with it. Our linebacker's been hurt, has not helped either. So having down years from some players has not helped, but our defensive line, which is meant to be strong and should have shielded the secondary better, didn't. It just did a piss poor job of it. And, there were inexplicable calls in there. While Branch was healthy, we never blitzed him. We never brought him up. There was a period around the Giants game time where he was the leading sack guy on our team over a 3 or 4 game period, which is simply unacceptable for a safety. But the fact is, he makes plays in the backfield. You can bring him up on the safety blitz and you can inflict negative plays on an opponent. We never did it. We did it in isolation once every now and then, and more often than not, he made plays, and there was nothing there. Barnes, for some reason, we've not utilised properly what he's got. I know he's had a bad year as well, but there's just been no creativity. There's been nothing good in there whatsoever, and then just like stupid things like, oh yeah, we've got a load of D tackles, so let's start playing them on the edge so our best players are on there. Like, miss me with that sort of stuff. You have a legitimate game wrecker, a defensive tackle, and you have just basically put both hands behind his back and said, go make a play while you're handicapped. And they've taken him out the game because, shock horror, we've got nothing at edge because we've done nothing to invest in the depth there properly. We've relied on a load of crocked, injured guys on cheap contracts who like, oh yeah, they can be our depth. And then we're shocked when they're hurt and there's nothing left there. Hence why we have to bring in guys like Tyler Lacey and Tyrus Wheat and stuff. And no disrespect to them, but we need better than that. And it all goes through that defensive line. It's just year in, year out. It is a problem. Last year, the run game, fantastic. It was sacks and stuff like that with the issue last year, which ultimately kept us down. This year, okay, we're a little bit better with sacks, but now the run defense is not as good, which is causing us issues. And it just seems every single year we have an issue of some point with that line, which is holding us back. You look at the teams in the playoffs right now who are doing well in the playoffs. What do most of them have who are going forward? The Rams, the defensive line. The Texans making it as far as the defensive line, the Patriots defensive line. Like all these teams have good, stout defensive lines which have depth and a little something to them and a little pizzazz when they need to. We don't have that. And it's just been a crippling problem this entire regime. And they've got to really think about this here. Again, as Ash said earlier, you've got to look at the type of players you're drafting. You're too one-dimensional with the players you're drafting, and honestly, you're pigeonholing yourself by believing that guys can only be good at run defense first and negating pass rush, not believing that natural pass rushers can't become good run defenders. You're taking so many great players off your board. It's like, who are you as coaches if you can't teach guys how to defend the run properly? Surely if it works one way, it's got to work the other. You've just got a load of big, beefy fuckers in there who have absolutely no clue how to get to a quarterback, who provide you no issues whatsoever. There's no pass rush through the interior, which makes the job harder for Hutch. It's just so unbalanced. When you've got Aleem, when you've got Reader, you then go and draft Tyleek, who's exactly the fucking same. You've got a nose tackle in there in Lopez, who doesn't really get to the quarterback much, although he did this year, but this is your draft philosophy starting to show now, and it's hurting you. Your draft philosophy of drafting small DBs is starting to hurt you because they're all getting injured. Surprise, surprise. You're getting guys who are not durable. It's just the samey stuff all over again, and you've got to have some diversity in the players you're drafting. And certain things like this are just holding us back. And the problem is I don't see a quick fix for this. Our safety room is fucked next year because both guys are carrying long-term injuries and are going to be, like Branch ain't going to start the season probably with his Achilles. God knows what's going to happen with Kirby, but that means you're trying to find 2 new starters in there. If not through free agency, you're throwing rookies in. Your corners are completely depleted, really, because they're all injured, and you're relying on a lot of guys who are coming back from serious injuries again. And, a lot of them haven't even proved themselves yet. Your linebacking core is going to consist of two guys, or three, but it needs depth, and it needs different guys in there to give us. We need better coverage at the linebacker position, and we need to completely redo the defensive line. So it's like there's a lot of questions you've got to answer next year, and it doesn't seem like a 1 year fix, which is crazy given the amount of resources we've put into it. But this is where Brad's got to be smart with his draft picks again, because we've just taken too many swings and done too much of the same stuff, and now it's showing.
Many thanks to milemarker301 for the $10 super chat. Says 100 ROTL UK. Many thanks, milemarker. Much appreciated your support. Absolutely fantastic all the way through the season. Looking ahead to what this defense is going to look like next year, and Ant kind of alluded to it in terms of who Mina might need to look at for free agency and draft and, potential injuries going forward. So we're going to have Aiden Hutchinson on one edge, and on the other edge, Davenport's not there, Al-Qadir's not there, Lacey and Wheat. Defensive tackle, Aleem McNeil, Tyleek Williams, Mekhi Wingo. No one else. Linebackers, Jack Campbell, Derek Barnes, Trevor Nowaski. Cornerbacks, DJ Reed, Terry and Arnold under contract, Noah Meek Robertson. Safeties, Branch and Joseph, but probably not starting. Not a lot else to write home about in terms of people under contract. So, this is a lot of players that you need to replace. And to Ant's point, going a bit further, in terms of what you saw from DJ Reed at the end of the year, it wasn't great. It was a good start, but he didn't look himself coming back from injury. What does he look like to start next season? Terry and Arnold played well when healthy and then played poorly when trying to play through injury. What does he look like again? Because you're asking these guys to come back from injury, and there are already question marks about how good they are anyway. Derek Barnes, he's being paid like a starting linebacker. He's going to be playing like a starting linebacker, but he's not playing like a starting linebacker. So what do you get out of these guys compared to the offense, where I'm quite bullish on being able to turn that around as long as we get things right? It feels like there is a small window of opportunity for the defense to get massively better. And in fact, the massive overwhelming likelihood is, unless we focus a majority of our recruitment on defense, specifically veterans, rather than draft picks, although draft picks too, but it looks like it's the place where you need to provide a solid floor, which is what DJ Reed was meant to provide, that it started off well, but where's the ceiling for this unit? Because we thought it could be a top 5 unit, but now looking at it, with all these long-term injuries, with the career-threatening issues that other players might have, the floor could be pretty low for this unit next year.
And what worries me is, with the big problem being its run defense, is that they're going to go straight back to type and start drafting these same run stuffers again and be like, well, we've got to fix the run game first. And, you are not taking into account some of your biggest issues: coverage linebackers, pass rushers, better coverage secondary guys, your bigger guys who defend against the run, etc. My worry is they're going to fall into the same old habits die hard again. And the trouble also, from a draft point of view, is I know they don't draft for need, but unfortunately, some of your biggest draft needs revolve around your offensive line, which is the whole engine here. So if the board falls as it doth, then the top picks are not going to be going towards the defense this year. They're going to be going towards fixing the engine of your offense. So you've got less draft capital to work with, and you have more got to dip into free agency to solve this issue. And we know they like to draft and develop their guys, but there's whereas there's a logjam in some positions for us, there's not a logjam of youngsters coming through on the defense now. I mean, Wingo's was healthy scratched in a team where we got nothing this year. Hassanin has missed an entire year of football, and he was already a round six rookie who has been out of the game for a year entirely, which is asking where your Rakestraw will have not played football in 3 years going into next year, and given his durability issues, there's no next crop of our draft picks coming through on the defensive line, bar Tyleek. And that's scary. That's really scary because we've not got in-house options to fix these holes on our team. We're going to have to go to the draft again and hope they're good as rookies, or we're going to have to go into the free agency market and maybe get a little aggressive and start paying for some of these guys because they've put themselves in a hole now where year six is a year where you've got to win playoff games. We've seen this league is getting more ruthless in terms of not allowing coaches to just be winning coaches anymore. We've seen McDermott go, Harbaugh go, Tomlin go, and, this is a problem I've highlighted. My personal philosophy, I don't want to be a team that wins in the regular season and can't get over the hump. I want to be a team that goes the distance and wins the damn thing. And you're getting into year 6, year 7 time now. You've got to start paying the piper. So you've got to be aggressive this year. This ain't a year you can throw away while you rebuild your defense. If you're 3 years away from your last playoff win, questions will get asked. Fractures will start to appear. The players will start to wonder whether your overall message actually is going to work. Because up till now, it's been resolute. But how long till your top players are like, hang on, maybe I don't want to be here anymore, and maybe I want my future to be somewhere where I think I can win a Super Bowl. People don't realize these sort of things. So, yeah, it's a tough position to be in this year from a roster building standpoint. You're going to have to go outside the building for more starters, more than you ever have, and they don't like doing that, but they can't not do that.
So we're going to do a Be the GM episode very shortly about a proposed method forward for what you would do in free agency in the draft, who you would sign, where it's going to lead you to, what the intention is. The popular school of thought at the moment is that we need to draft a left tackle, we need to draft a centre, a lot of our early draft resources are going on offensive line, when it really looks like defence might be the more in need side of the ball, and yet it's such an acute need on the offensive line. We need to address that. And I think I might pivot away from that just to be a contrarian. And it might mean settling for something at tackle which is not up to the line standard of recent years. But you'll do it in order to do something pretty spicy on the other side of the ball. And so the sort of thing I'm looking at, and I'll flesh this out when we actually do the episode, is looking at, say, there's a lot more availability at right tackle in free agency than there is at left. Saul moves to left tackle. We sign Jermaine Illuminor to play right tackle for $9 million, which is, as Ash is face palming, suboptimal, and I did say it was suboptimal. But then, what happens, but now, picking where we do in the draft, left tackle isn't the must-have thing to do at 17 overall. Yep. Instead, we could trade up into the top 10 for an edge that falls. What if Arvell Reese falls to 5? Or David Bailey falls to 7? I'm thinking package a 2027 first-round pick with the 2026 first-round pick and go up and get another edge. And instead just live with right tackle. Because you know what, Anne? I totally buy what you were saying in terms of you being in a tough spot. Goff has proven he can be productive in substandard situations, but this defense has proved that unless Hutch gets help, we're on a hide into nothing, and all of the teams in the playoffs have a substantially better defensive line than we do. If we get left tackle and centre sorted this season and defence stays where it is, we stay exactly where we thought we would be, which is not quite good enough. And maybe it's time for a change. I know that it's not the sort of thing that people are going to want to entertain in terms of moving Saul and signing either someone like Illuminor or Josh Jones or Jonah Williams or Rob Havenstein or one of these guys that's going to be around $8 to $12 million a year at right tackle. But if you want to go and get a properly good edge in the draft and maybe trade up to do it, that's the sort of thing you're going to have to live with. And I think it's something that no one is talking about right now. So Ash, I know I've just killed you there with that, but
Yeah, yes,
there's
I
some
agree that
merit
Goff
to
can.
it.
I mean, Goff can deal with substandard conditions, but can he deal with a right tackle who false starts 3 times in a drive?
He has done it
That's
this
what I was
year.
faced by. Yeah, exactly. Like I do agree with what you're saying. So I know again with my mock drafts, I know people have always seen and I just could know. I always go for a tackle first round, but there is options in the second round, and I know that's not exactly optimal. I think it's from like 80% of the starting left tackles in this league that are consistent starters were taken in the first, but there are guys in the second. Caleb Tiernan from Northwestern, for instance, left tackle, which I know Ant likes him. But yeah, there's options where we don't have to force that. Oh, we need to get a tackle in the first round option, especially if I know I know it's kind of falling into he's the kind of player we like anyway. But if a Koldrick Fork falls to us at 17, do we consider that? Where I know he's the kind of edge rusher we usually like. He's a bigger guy, but has shown some chops in at Auburn in terms of pass rushing. Do we go there and then in the second round, come round to a second, third tier tackle who will probably start a right tackle for us and we move Saul? I'm open to that. It's just we're stuck in this tricky situation where most of the good left tackles in the league are taken in the first round. Most of the good edge rushers that are not quarterbacks, Crosby, are taken in the first round. And it is what do they choose to do? And it could be, they go and get a veteran guy like Josh Jones. I know that when you said that name, that stuck out to me because former Arizona Cardinal the past couple of years, someone that knows offensive coordinator, maybe we bring him in and he's a stopgap starter for a day 2 tackle. There is options available to us, luckily, but it's just that's the one good thing is in terms of the starters in the offense, as we've said before, it is just left tackle and center. On the defense, hopefully that is where the most investment comes because we need at least one defensive line start, at least one linebacker start, and potentially 2, if not 3, secondary starters, depending on what we do. Because we're going to have to get some safeties in. I know, obviously, we listed the guys there. Hopefully, we can bring back some of the guys, and the team will obviously point to, we'll get Jan Jackson back after he missed the entire season IR. Dan Jackson is basically Daniel Thomas. And we saw what happened with Daniel Thomas, where we didn't trust him on defense until the last week. He's there for special teams only. We tried everything to not put him on the field, signing bloody Zavonte Kazee to the practice squad to try and not get him on the field, and yet we had to. We are going to have to spend a lot of dollars on this defense, and that's always going to be the thing. Is we've always pointed out, the offense got the investment early, getting Saul and getting all this, but the past couple of years, it's been the defense got this investment, traded for Carlton Davis, signing DJ Reed to a big contract, drafting a defensive tackle in the first round. We've always come back to defense, and yet it's not always been there. And I hope, as I've alluded to earlier, and we've all alluded to in the past half an hour or so, it's the wake-up call that this is. We've put a lot of investments in, and it's just not there. Maybe we need to change what we're investing in. Like we've been put into, to use a very, very bad metaphor, we've been investing in the wrong kind of stocks. Maybe it's time to, sell what we can of those stocks and look to the emerging ones instead of, pumping money into AOL. We need to start investing in Apple kind of thing and actually get ahead. Because that's what we've done on offense. One of the reasons we were so good on offense the past couple of years is because we've been ahead of the curve in some things. I know the Rams have been heralded for playing these 3 tight end sets this year, but we were very heavy on the using 2 running backs, playing a lot of tight end stuff, all this kind of stuff that's now become in vogue in the league. We're playing a lot of base, which does work against these big tight end things, but we need to start becoming in vogue on the defense as well, getting some of these flashy guys. If it is a David Bailey falls because people see him as too light to play on the edge in the league, we actually know what, we can find a role for you, even if it's you play the Sam role sometimes and sometimes you stand up edge rush and you take some of the pressure off Derek Barnes there. We need to start finding these innovations because, otherwise we're going to be stuck with the 16th to 20th best defense if everyone's healthy, and worse than that if we have injuries again. And yes, the offense can carry that. We saw it last year where we managed to win 15 games on the back of an historic run of injuries, especially on defense. But counting on the offense to do that when you're going to be potentially starting a rookie or 2 on the offensive line, new offensive coordinator, you can have time bedding that in, especially since he's been outside the system. It's a whole new verbiage for people to lose. you're potentially losing your running back too, who's been so damn good, consistently moving the chains. So you have to go and get one of them as well. It's the margin for error has just become so slim now because of how we've kind of backed ourselves into this corner now.
I mean, yeah, it is an interesting thing about how he will go after the draft and what he will prioritize. Because no matter what anyone says, he will have to prioritize this year because there are too many positions on the trenches to not do. All I will say is, institutionally, the Detroit Lions draft their left tackles. You, off the top of your head, tell me the last season the Lions started a left tackle that was not their own draftee. You go back through Taylor Decker, Riley Reef, Jeff Backus, guys who drafted in the first round consistently again and again by the Lions to be their franchise cornerstones. And that's going back 20 odd years at this point. They don't do left tackles not drafted by the organization. You've got to figure that's going to be, and I know this current regime have not done that, but this is going back to the Spielman days when he played here. We have always had a great left tackle in Detroit. We've always had an above average left tackle in Detroit drafted here. And Manu ain't going to break that cycle. But yeah, you've got so many issues to solve here that it's going to be a tough one for him. Free agency will be big. You've got to smash free agency out the park this year. Get in there early and spend a bit of money if you need to. Because this all comes back to the cap economics and that and what they're going to do with that. There are so many things they can do and they're going to have to do that they won't like, but it's going to need to be done.
I've just put an example of my idea in the mock draft channel for everyone to see. Not quite drafting, taking a free agency right tackle, but I think it could be a goer. Anyway, we'll do something like that.
I don't hate it.
I'll take that. Right. We are very briefly going to talk divisional roundup. So if there's anything you want to say about the 2025 Detroit Lions before we do the award show next week, now's your shot. Anything else we want to go through?
Can we sign Bates to a long-term contract now, please?
I don't think a lot of the fan base are going to be on that with you. I think there's a lot of heat on him for some reason by the fans, but I don't agree with it. Anyway, sorry, Amp.
I don't think I was going to say anything other than I think it's just a season that we can forget and put in the rearview mirror, and hopefully it's the blip. It's the kick up the backside the team needed. Like the 49ers 3-win season before they drafted Bosa and went to the Super Bowl the next year. Hopefully it's going to be like that for us. And this is the rocket up the arse that they needed, and they'll get back to it next season with a better. Yeah.
Exactly. And at least the Bears won't have, the Pope juju on them. They wasted it all yesterday with that throw. So next year, we'll be right in the universe again.
Oh, we talk about that now because that's ridiculous how much love he's getting for that fucking heave. Like, just honestly, if Jared Goff did that, it was lucky.
It was OPI.
Right. Yeah. Let's talk about these games then. We'll go chronologically. So first, it's the Bills lost to the Broncos 33-30 in overtime. A cracking game. Marred by Bo Nix having a shattered ankle in the second to last play of the game. Somehow, Ant, he still managed to throw the ball after that one play. I have no idea how he did it, but there we go. This was a really balmy back and forth game because the Bills on the ground got 183 yards on 36 carries, but kept shooting themselves in the foot because this Broncos defense is absolutely wild. But you know what? The Broncos didn't help themselves either in some parts. Lil Jordan Humphrey came up big in his 2 catches. I want to specifically pick him out because he had the touchdown, but he also had a really big drop early on too. It always felt like it was the Broncos to lose. And then when the Bills started coming back, it was like, oh God, here we go again. 5 fumbles for the Bills. They lost 3 of them. That was really big. Crazy, crazy game. And it ended with the Broncos just pulling out the win. But now, is this just a dead rubber for the AFC Championship game? It could be.
I mean, what was it? -5 turnover margin? You can't win playoff games with a -5 turnover, or -4 at best. There were just some really stupid decisions in this bit. Why, with 15 seconds left in a half, is Josh Allen running when they're about 45 yards at least away from even attempting a long field goal? Why are you running, flapping the ball around like you're a bird trying to take off on the ground? And he just threw it out. It didn't even get touched. And it's like, that's the kind of stupid stuff he's been doing that he feels that he needs to do with this team. And, you've got to keep ball security better. This was your year. No Mahomes, no Burrow, no Lamar. And yes, this Denver team is good and its defense is good, but you need to beat teams like this. And once again, they choked some questionable calls, very bad ball handling. I mean, how Denver only won in overtime, I'll never know. Like, they should have been miles out of sight. And if they'd have lost that, it'd have been a travesty. But I think overall, it was two incredibly talented QBs slinging darts at one another. And it was very entertaining. I'm not going to lie. Going into overtime, it was all over the place. And then obviously the interception that was, I thought the call was good because I didn't think he controlled it until he got to the ground. And then you've got to re-establish control, and he didn't. I
Yeah,
actually
well,
thought the call was good from the refs.
I thought the
So,
call was good. The rules are
and it
different if you've
was,
established yourself as a runner or if you're trying to
yeah,
complete the catch. He's not a runner, therefore, if his knee goes down, it doesn't matter if he hasn't got the ball 100%. And with the ease of the ball coming out of it, if you have a look at it at full game speed,
yeah,
it's pretty obvious it's an interception. If you do
yeah.
slow it down to really, really slow motion replay, it does look like a catch, but you don't play real life in slow motion. And he takes it out of that inside zero point 0.1 of a second. You can't tell me that's control. If it was control, it wouldn't
No.
have been ripped out so easily.
Exactly. And I think, it was a good call. They're just pissed. And again, why the Bills were taking that shot in that situation as well. Like they next score wins, you only needed a field goal. Once again, going for the hero ball down the field when they're running the ball perfectly serviceably on the Broncos.
Yeah.
And you just take a big shot like that, and you're like, that's just not the right play call in that situation, putting the ball in harm's way. You put it above him as well, so he couldn't establish control because he was extended. Um, it was crazy, but fair play to the Broncos. Obviously, they got absolutely walloped by the Bills last year, and they've grown and adapted as a team and showed a lot more spine against them this time, and got them put away. And the Bills obviously say that's the last call of McDermott, and I believe that is the right decision from the Bills. The GM should have gone as well. I'm making no bones about that, but you know, there's only so many times you can. Again, it's the whole debate about people say he's a good coach. Yes, he's a good coach and he wins games, but 4 years in five, you've lost to Mahomes. You've had four shots at the best team and you've not been able to beat them. Then the first year they're not around, you're losing to the Broncos, and the Broncos aren't going anywhere. They're going to keep getting better. The Ravens will be back. The Bengals will be back. Like, you've got to make progress in the playoffs eventually, and they just haven't. And, that's on him as well as his GM. The whole cartel should be gone, and the Bills are probably in some bother now. But it is a shame, as you say, for Knicks as well to do that. To get to where he is and then for them to go down is such a shame. And I don't think it is a dead rubber next week. This Broncos defense forced five turnovers in this game. If there is a unit that can hold them in it, it is their defense. All they need to do is run the ball well, limit how much Stidham has to throw it. But let's not forget, Jarrett Stidham is not. We're not talking about Brock Osweiler here or something like that. We're not talking about someone who's completely fucking useless.
I think we are.
Um,
Are we
I
not?
think he's serviceable enough. I think he will give you a serviceable game. And let's not forget, this is against his old team as well. He's got some pride in here. There was once a belief, and No said this, that he could be the guy who eventually was a long-term backup to Brady and potentially over. There was a lot of buzz about him at one point, but that defense alone will give them a chance. Because as I say, the Patriots good. Patriots are really good, but they can be prone to turnovers occasionally.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
and we'll talk about that, but May has a
yeah.
tendency to put the ball on the ground for sure.
Exactly. So this is not the dead rubber. Teams don't get here and then they're just immediately out of it because their quarterback's down. If the strength is your defense, you can do anything that you want to do as long as you give them a chance to rest up. And the way the Pets play football and the way the Broncos play football, they could still do it. But it was a thoroughly entertaining game.
The next one was an absolute demolition derby as the Seahawks beat the 49ers 41-6. 49ers never got started. Purdy threw for 140 yards and a turnover, but Darnold threw for even less, 124 yards and a touchdown. But Purdy was also San Francisco's leading rusher, and their leading receiver was someone who I just about know the name of in Jake Tongues.
Oh, the tight end.
Yeah. McCaffrey had 35 on the ground, 39 through the air. Otherwise, Jordan James had 28 on the ground. Jawan Taylor had 23 through the air. Otherwise, they didn't have anyone get above 12 offensive yards, San Francisco. Tells you how dominant this Seattle team was. All they really needed to do was get something going on the ground, and no one really did, apart from Ken Walker, who got a hat-trick. 19 for 116 and 3, and that was enough. They got 2 fumbles from San Francisco as well, just to help matters. Only 2 sacks on the day, and this is against a very hot 49ers team. I know they're coming in a bit banged up, but an incredibly impressive performance by Seattle.
Set the tone from the very first play of the game. Kickoff returned right down their throat, 7 down before 13 seconds is even off the clock. And fair play to Eddie Pinheiro for doing his best Tony Adams impression. That was a disgusting attempt at a stop, and he should be absolutely ashamed of himself. But no, the Seahawks, as you say, came out completely red hot, and you put them down early. You start forcing 3-and-outs. You're forcing turnovers as well. 49ers was just able to get nothing going whatsoever, and they didn't even come close to threatening the Seahawks end zone in that first half. And when you're 17 up at home, it's just hard to come back from. When you're kicking field goals, they're not been particularly aggressive. Shanahan doesn't like to be particularly aggressive. He does the analytical approach, and you could tell by half if this was dead. I know you only said 2 sacks, but as we said earlier, sacks are splash metrics. It's how are you doing against them in general. And, the tackles for loss, the plays against the run, as you've already said, they were running at nothing at all, just 108 rush yards on the day for the 49ers. And we're used to them being a hell of a lot better. McCaffrey, 3.2 yards per carry. That's absolutely nothing. You control the line of scrimmage, you control the game, you control the scoreboard. I think in the end, they won time of possession as they needed to, as you do when you're able to keep a team so boxed in. It was men versus boys, this was, and you kind of wonder how that San Fran team got to where it did. I mean, I know there's injuries on there, but Tongas has done really well in Kittle's absence. They've got most of their other players knocking around at this moment in time, but the Seahawks just eviscerated them with superior play calling. And, the same thing that's happened to Harbaugh and to McDermott, you have to start eventually asking questions about Kyle Shanahan. And, I know he's a great coach and he's an offensive, innovative mind and that, but still no Super Bowl. And you've just been completely soundly defeated by one of your division rivals. You have an aging squad where most of your great guys are getting on in years, and you're going to have to replace a lot of them soon. And you're probably going to have to endure a competitive rebuild now with the Seahawks and Rams been as good as they are. How long are they going to keep accepting this as the standard? You worry for them. Bosa's never healthy anymore. Kittle's probably going to be done by now. Receiver wise, you got a guy who doesn't even want to be there.
In McCaffrey, you had someone who potentially could be looking at retirement because of how chronic his injury problems were looking to start the year. He could barely get on the field last year because he could barely walk.
Yeah, and this team is going to have to properly enter a rebuild phase. It feels like they've been trying to keep it alive these last few years, but you talk about teams whose window's closing and you feel like theirs is slowly but surely closing because Purdy is not the guy who can win you games in these situations, and there's just too many panicked throws and too many bad throws. So, but the Seahawks, man, Christ, how good they look all over. It's a shame they've lost Charbonnet for the championship game because him and Walker make a perfect 1-2 punch. But that defense is another thing that again is just, it's so beautiful. The secondary is great. Witherspoon. It still hurts me to this day that they drafted him and we didn't, and they traded up to get the bugger. But he's playing. They say he's been to the Pro Bowl every single year he's been there. Like he's been worthy of that pick they invested in him. There's so much talent again on both trenches. They pretty much homegrown their entire offensive line, which looks shaky to start with, but it's getting into its prime now. It's just looks so dominant. I mean, you look at them out of all the teams in this, and you think they're the ones who should probably win it. The way they're playing and what they're doing. It doesn't look like there's many teams who could stand up to them.
Moving on to the next one, and one of the most hysterical, funniest games I've ever seen in my life, with the Texans falling to the Patriots 28-16, a game which featured was it 8 turnovers in the game in the end? Was it 10? I can't remember. It was a heck of a lot. 4 interceptions for Stroud, and then they had a fumble lost as well. And then Drake May fumbled 4 times, lost it twice, and had a pick. I don't know what that adds up to, but it was a hilarious game. And coming into the half, New England were 21-10 up, with almost everyone questioning whether CJ Stroud should come out to start the second half, or whether they legitimately should consider benching him because of where on earth his head's going to be at. It was a farcical game. It ended up with the correct result in the end. But even then, the result wasn't ever dead, especially going into the fourth quarter. It was 21-16. For as much as the Texans struggled on offense, that Houston defense is so special.
The pick six changed this game. I thought before the pick six, the Texans looked the better team. And I thought they'd done a remarkably good job of keeping the Patriots in check. After that first drive touchdown, you kind of feared for them a little bit, and they started off a little shaky, but I thought the Texans grew into it well. The defense did what we expected it to do and sort of dominated and smothered New England, and then obviously they got the touchdown to go in front, and then they got the ball back straight away pretty much, and you're thinking, well, they're 10-7 up, they've got the ball in hand, things are looking good for them here, and then the pick six happens, and you can just see the confidence drains from him then. Like the look on his face when it's like, we're on the road at Foxborough. It's really hard. We've gone through a quarter and a bit. We've settled in. We're playing good football. And then you throw a backbreaker like that where you're behind instantly. And it just felt like there was no recovery from that point. I know they were still in it, but their offense went quiet. They were dealing infield goals, which you just can't do. They just seemed unable to put the finishing touch together on drives, and you're 11 down at the half. You keep hitting field goals when you should be getting level. It's not enough. The Patriots are clearly going to start scoring again at some point, and that they do. That catch by Butte is fucking sensational. Maybe catch of the year candidate in the situation.
Absolutely,
like
100%.
It's. I remember when Keyshawn. Like, people forget Keyshawn Boutte was once a mega hyped prospect when he was back at LSU. And obviously, he didn't have the best of college careers and had issues. And he came up and people were like, oh, he's an afterthought now. People forget that this was once a future mega star. And he showed that with that catch there in that situation. It was fantastic. But he said, we expected the defenses to be on top. I thought it might be like a 9-6 game, but 8 turnovers, you're right. Like the defenses went to town here. It's a shame. Will Anderson played tremendously, just 2 defensive lines that went to town on one another. What was it? It's like 10, 11 sacks in the game all told, just, throwing slugs at one another. Al-Shaair played really well. I think he had like 2 forced fumbles or something stupid like that. It was Togiai forced fumble. Like
Togiai was incredible.
Togiai's been really good, and Togiai was like when he came up to the system, you're like, I don't see where he kind of fits in here, but they found a system where he just absolutely flourishes. But It's I keep saying it. I did not expect Mike Vrabel to have this much of an impact on the Patriots so quick. You knew that it would come good eventually, but where the Patriots were last year, you're like, this is probably going to take a little bit of time for them to get in because he'll do his defense first, and then he'll start on the offense. But he's found a pretty good offense off the bat, but this defense is phenomenal. All across the board. Like I say, the line itself is tremendous. Your linebackers are good, and your secondary. Like I just want to shout out here. Marcus Jones got the pick six. I remember when Marcus Jones came out of Houston, he had like 8 return touchdowns in college or something like that. One of the best to ever do it as a returner, but he's an undersized prospect, and he came up, and everyone was like, oh, the dude's just a returner at the NFL level. Like, he's got no place in the NFL whatsoever outside of returning kicks. And that was the profile on him. And you're like, he's so much more than that. He's such a good DB. He's such a good player. Like, you've got to give him credit. And he will make a go of it. And the Patriots have turned him into a starting caliber corner in this league. And he has made big play after big play after big play. And he's just one of those guys who's come up with a complete chip on his shoulder because no one's given him any respect whatsoever. And that's what the Patriots seem to have built themselves off from being this feared dynasty that everybody, feared and, bowed to the ground to. They've gone off the disrespected route this time. Like, they're not the Patriots of old. They're not going to be the Brady Patriots again. They're never going to be as good as that. And I think they're feeding off that negative energy and turning it into pure energy for themselves. It's just a weird way to see it built, but Vrabel's key team is kicking ass, and you're looking, you're like, even if the Broncos were at full speed, you'd be like, it would take a lot for them to beat them because they just look so well oiled as a machine right now, as we expect a Vrabel team to do so.
Final game went to overtime. Rams over the Bears 20-17 in the hate-watchable hate watch for Lions fans. Stafford went under 50% completions with no passing touchdowns, and yet somehow managed to pull out the game because Caleb Williams threw 3 back-breaking interceptions. An entertaining game. Kyron Williams got his on the ground, 21 for 87 and 2 touchdowns, which was just about enough for the Rams to get by. Bears defense came to play, after getting very little recently, and that defensive line put Stafford under a lot of pressure. The Bears brought a lot of heat, which is a bit different to what they did. They were putting Stafford in all sorts of binds, and just when it looked like the Bears were flaming out because they couldn't get anything going, neither could the Rams. It was such an odd game considering the game script was clearly going to be Stafford just blows his team away, but the questions about him in the cold are kind of going to continue like they did for Goff. Like, this was such a weird game. And for the Rams to turn the Bears away on 4th down with 3 minutes to go, up 7 on their own 3-yard line, allow this to get to overtime with a ridiculous Caleb Williams throw. Like, it's just a desperation throw, and yet it's thrown to a good location. The fact that his tight end is able to push off so he's available in the end zone is one thing, but people calling it out for being one of the plays of their lives, I think, is a bit overblown and a bit hysterical. It was a good play. I'm not going to say it isn't, but anyone can chuck a desperation ball up on 4th down with the season on the line. I'm not going to call it something it isn't either. In the end of the day, the lesser of 2 evils prevails, I guess.
I'm not a hateful man. But when he threw that pass, I nearly had a coronary because I thought they're going to do it. And you kind of felt the energy around Chicago, like, oh shit, this is the energy we rode to the NFC Championship game. Like, you could feel the tangible excitement in the building and the momentum, and you're like, oh god, it's actually going to happen. And it couldn't happen to a worse set of people. But thankfully, fate intervened and did it in. But as a game, like you said, this was odd. The Rams were so odd in this. They were running the football very well, and they didn't run the football. They ran the football, 11 times? And they were running the ball really well. So it's like, why are they throwing? Are they trying to catch Chicago out by throwing so much in the snow? It wasn't working. And, you're like, just the time they settled down and ran the football, they scored. That's when they got the second touchdown to go up and like you've just ran the ball most of the drive and it's worked. So why are you not continuing to do this? But on the flip side, Ben showing his inexperience as a head coach, and I've seen all the memes about him channeling his inner Dan Campbell, but I thought Dan was way too aggressive in this. Sorry, I thought Ben was way too aggressive. Ben was way too aggressive in this game on fourth downs. It's like this is a level game. It's a pretty close game. You're consistently going for it on fourth down, even in like fourth and sixes and stuff like that. And you're just like, why, Ben? You're in a low scoring game. You are coming up and you're playing against a coach in Sean McVay. He is 190% analytical. Sean McVay is not an aggressive head coach. If he's at fourth and an inch and everything's telling him to go for it, he'll punt it. Like he works the analytics. He's not an overtly aggressive head coach. So it's not like you're chasing a game against a guy who's going to try and keep putting points up on you. As long as you make stops, you ain't going to fall further behind. And it's just, I was gobsmacked by some of the calls. You had 4 plays to get 6 yards from a first six. You've got DeAndre Swift trying to do a hurdle, putting the ball in harm's way in the air, getting a hit in the nuts with with a helmet, which must have hurt a lot. But the play calling was sus. It was just not finished off very well. It just kind of felt like Ben was riding the momentum on the day, as it were. And the Bears were getting lucky. The Bears have got hella lucky. 99 times out of 100, that throw lands in a DB's hands and it's picked off, and it doesn't even go to overtime. But even then, in overtime, you're making sus calls. And what is Caleb doing throwing that interception under no pressure whatsoever in overtime? Again, you've got like 11 minutes to go and score a field goal, and they're taking big, risky shots downfield. Whoever drew the play call up for that needs shooting, and it's probably Ben. It's like, why are you taking these big? It's like you're trying to finish off with one big grandiose smack down the field. We'll hit the field goal and we'll go off in a blaze of glory. Or you play the grandiose play, you get picked off, you give the Rams good field position, and then you lose. It was just really sus. That's Ben's first big learning curve as a coach. He's going to look at that and he's going to want a lot of that game back. But again, you've got to look and say defense won this. Defense wins playoff games. This did. The Rams secondary, which has been maligned and has been ridiculed with its non-star players in there. I mean, shock horror, picks, several of them, turnovers, several of them. They made plays when they needed to. Kobe Durant, what a game for him. 2 picks. The first one was an absolute stunner as well. And again, shout out to the HBCUs. He's out of South Carolina State. He's going to an NFC Championship game. Joshua Williams has won 2 Super Bowls with the Kansas City Chiefs, playing good amounts of snaps for them. Teams have got to stop ignoring these HBCU schools now. They make DBs as good as anybody does, and it's there. I think he was a 4th round pick a few years ago for them, but coming up clutch, these guys have been tremendous, and it's the first time I've ever been grateful for Sean McVay winning a game. I despise Sean McVay. I absolutely hate him. I hate the Rams. I hate everything they stand for. And I had to root for them in this one. And thankfully they did something good for me. And I will thank them for it. But the Bears will kick themselves because they made some really stupid decisions. And as Dan said, you might not get back. And you might not get another chance like that. And you've got to play a big boy schedule next year now after playing 4th place schedules for the last 3 years. It ain't gonna be easy for you.
Yeah. All right. That's the divisional round. So the championship games are going to be Broncos, Patriots, and Seahawks, Rams. Who are you backing? Who do you think will win? What do you think the Super Bowl will be? But who do you want to be the Super Bowl?
I mean, no one wants the Patriots to win another one. We don't want to see the dynasty back, but you can't see the Broncos doing it. I think it will be closer than people expect, but I think you're gonna see the Patriots go through and win that side of it. In this one, I can't. Seahawks, Rams, it just feels like this, the Seahawks have the better roster. Or the Seahawks have been playing better football, but the Rams have the knowledge of playing in these sort of games. The Seahawks have. When was the last Seahawks NFC Championship game? Was it the year they lost to Brady in that famous Super Bowl? The Matt Patricia play one. Have they been back to the end? Have they
I,
been back to?
I thought they won the Super Bowl after that. Did they not?
Or did they win the Super Bowl? Or whatever. Have they been back in the last 10 years? I don't feel like they've progressed very deep in the playoffs recently. I
They
could be
won
wrong.
the 2014 Super Bowl, and they then lost to the 2015 New England Patriots. So you're
Yeah,
right.
so it was that one. So they've not been. That's 10 years since your last championship game, and I know it doesn't mean much, but Mike McDonald's a new coach. Well, he's a relatively new coach in situ there. Sean McVay's been there and done that, and he's not going to have blinding snow in this one, stopping him from airing it out like he wants to. You would. You just feel like every time I try to root against McVay, he's like evil and will win. I think the Rams will win it. As much as I think the Seahawks are a great football team, I think the Rams have just got the savvy and they're gonna go there and beat them. Then you've got a Rams Patriots Super Bowl, which obviously will harken back to Jared Goff and his attempt to do it against them. And honestly, in that situation, that's a really hard one to call. That's old school Mike Vrabel versus innovative modern Sean McVay. Uh, I honestly, it would be a coin flip for me if those two played one another. I don't want Stafford to win another Super Bowl because he'll be inducted into the Hall as a Ram, not a Lion. Um, May, though, you just feel like the Rams' defensive line might get at May a bit, especially with the propensity for turnovers and fumbles. Ugh. I guess I would say the Rams win it from here. Um, but it would be very, very close. Yeah, McVay's got this dark magic aura about him and he's sacrificed his soul and like he will get these little things he needs to get there. And he is incredibly gifted as a play caller. I just don't think the Patriots match up too well against him.
Of the four at this stage, who do you want to win the most?
I mean, I hate the Seahawks because they draft all the players I like. I hate the Rams. Again, I'm not a hateful man. I hate the Patriots because they've had the dynasty. But Denver don't have their quarterback. Like, genuinely, I would, and I hate Sean Payton, actually, come to think of it.
You don't hate a lot of things, but the things
I
I
don't
do
hate a lot of things, but the things I do hate just happen to be in the, you know what? I would probably want it to be the Broncos. That would be cool. I mean, it'd be nice for Bree as well. Bree's cool. I like Bree. So she'd have a lot of fun with the Broncos winning the Super Bowl. But obviously, I just don't think they're going to be able to do it without Knicks. But if we're going want, it will probably be Broncos. Ooh, Broncos, Seahawks, Patriots, Rams. That would be the order in which I would like them to win it.
Okay, so for me, I think the Super Bowl will be the Seahawks Patriots. I think the Seahawks will win. I really think that the Patriots are the most complete team left, which is a very strange thing to say, but people have been shitting on their schedule being a bit soft all the way through. But their defensive and offensive lines have been dominating all the games they've been playing, even against some of the better teams. And, okay, Texans managed to get at them a bit, but you're talking maybe about the best defensive line in football. That, I don't think, reflects on the Patriots' offensive line. I think they've been very, very good. I think it protected May pretty well throughout the season. And going into the game against Denver, it's going to be a lot the same. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But I just think that the Seahawks defense, again, is so special, and Darnold maybe can just do enough. Maybe.
I mean, just purely for, and this is my really petulant draft nerd side here, because again, not hateful man, don't hold grudges about stuff, but there are certain narratives about players that come out of drafts, and you just look at them and you're like, okay, that's crazy. But for the Patriots winning it, they drafted Will Campbell this year, and everyone was like, oh, no, Will Campbell's not going to be a tackle in the NFL. He's too small, his arms are too stubby. And all these people who don't have no idea what they're talking about whatsoever and pretend that they do. Like, I would like to see Will Campbell win a Super Bowl, especially after his reaction to getting drafted last year as well. Like, he was very much emotional about that. And I know statistically PFF won't say he's had the greatest season ever, but he's a rookie in the NFL at left tackle, which is the hardest position, and he's going to a championship game and probably going to a Super Bowl as well. So, it's sometimes just these little things, but I would love to see Will Campbell do it. If Vrabel wins a Super Bowl year one in New England, how much job security does that give him? Like, he's probably got a job for the next 6 or 7 years with no expectations whatsoever, because like he's New England born and bred, and like it would be. I just would hate to see the Empire back, but it is what it is.
All right. That's it from me. Do you have anything you want to talk about before we sign off?
I don't know. I don't think so. No, I think we just about covered everything, really.
All right.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So, a message for our live audience right now on YouTube and Twitch. This channel will be going live in about 3 hours' time for the college football national championship game, Indiana-Miami. Ant's going to be doing a watch along for that. So if you like your college ball, this channel will be live. Do keep Ant some company as we watch a new champion be crowned. Otherwise, our next episode, College Football Podcast, will be back at some point. If you saw Ant's tweet, then you know that there's something going on behind the scenes. Next episode on the main show is going to be the awards show at some point next week, but TBD on the timeline for that. You can find us on the socials, Royal Lions UK, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And the group for worldwide fans on Facebook is Detroit Lions Fans UK, One Pride Worldwide. The website, rotluk.com. Actually, we're working on someone writing a bit of draft content for us, so that might start trickling through the website if you are interested in that sort of thing. Otherwise, join our Discord channel. It's where we're going to funnel a lot of our specialist draft stuff, and did a lot of good kind of break down some tape stuff last year. We're going to try and do a little bit more of that, expanding our coverage on bits and pieces. I normally post the consensus board in there. There's lots of good stuff. Anyway, get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you. Otherwise, enjoy the conference championships. Oh, and we're going to, if you're in the UK for the Super Bowl, we're going to be hosting a watch party in Birmingham as well. So if you're interested, please do get in touch. But for now, for Ash, who departed to go and do some work, and for Ant, I'm Matt. We'll see you later on in the week, or in a few hours' time for the college football. Let's go Lions, One Pride.
One Pride.
Recording stopped.